Okay, hi everybody. So just this week we're just doing a quick question and answer and discussion on Tong Len, and it might be short because maybe there's not a lot to discuss. I don't know. There's just so much about Tong Len nowadays, and so many books and stuff that maybe it's pretty clear for people. But it's always nice to sort of recap everything, maybe summarize, have a bit of a discussion in case there's people need some clarification or so forth. So as always, I like to leave a bit more time for the discussion. So we'll just spend a little bit more time, like sort of time, just with the prayers and stuff. So we'll start with the Heart Sutra here. Homage, profession, wisdom, the Blessed Mother. Thus I've heard at one time the Blessed One was dwelling in Rajgir and Mass Vulture's Mountain, together great assembly of monks and nuns and great assembly of bodhisattvas. That time the Blessed One was absorbed in the concentration of countless aspects of phenomena called profound illumination. That time also Spirit of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, was looking perfectly at the practice of profound perfection wisdom, looking perfectly also at the five aggregates being empty of inherent existence. Then through the power of Buddha, Venerable Shariputra said to Spirit of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, how should a son of the lineage train who wishes to engage in the practice of profound perfection wisdom? Thus he spoke, in Spirit of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, replied to Venerable Shariputra as follows. Shariputra, whatever son or daughter of the lineage wishes to engage the practice of profound perfection wisdom should look perfectly like this. Subsequently, looking perfectly incorrectly, also the five aggregates being empty of inherent existence. Form is empty, emptiness is form. Emptiness is none other than form. Form is also none other than emptiness. Likewise, feeling, discrimination, compositional factors, and consciousness are empty. Shariputra, like this, all phenomena are emptiness, having no characteristics. They are not produced and do not cease. They have no defilement, no separation from defilement. They have no decrease and no increase. Therefore, Shariputra, in emptiness, there is no form, no feeling, no discrimination, no compositional factors, and no consciousness. There's no eye, no ear, no nose, no tongue, no body, no mentality, no form, no sound, no smell, no taste, no tactile object, no phenomenon. There is no I element, so forth, up to no mentality element, and also up to no element of mental consciousness. There is no ignorance and no exhaustion of ignorance, and so forth, up to no aging and death and no exhaustion of aging and death. Likewise, there's no suffering, origin, cessation, or path, no exalted awareness, no attainment, also no non-attainment. Therefore, Shariputra, because there's no attainment, bodhisattvas rely upon and abide in the perfection of wisdom. Their minds have no obstructions and no fear. Passing utterly beyond perversity, they attain the final nirvana. Also, all Buddhas reside perfectly in the three times, having relied upon the perfection of wisdom, became manifest complete Buddhas in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete enlightenment. Therefore, the mantra of perfection of wisdom, the mantra of great knowledge, the unsurpassed mantra, the equal and unequaled mantra, the mantra that thoroughly pacifies all suffering, since it's not false, should be known as the truth. The mantra of perfection of wisdom is proclaimed, Tayata Om Gata Gata Paragata Parasamgati Bodhi Soha. Shariputra, Bodhisattva, great beings should train the profound perfection of wisdom like this. Then the Blessed One arose in that concentration, said to Spirit of Avalokiteshvara, Bodhisattva, the great being, that he'd spoken well. Good, O son of Len, it is like that. Since it's like that, just as you have revealed, in that way the profound perfection of wisdom should be practiced, and the Tathagatas will also rejoice. When the Blessed One had said this, Venerable Shariputra, Spirit of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva, the great being, and the entire circle of disciples, as well as worldly beings, gods, humans, demigods, and spirits, were delighted and highly praised what had been spoken by the Blessed One. Okay, so for us here, we're just going to take a moment to visualize ourselves seated in a wide open space, surrounded by all sentient beings. Our mother on our left, father on our right, the people we love the most behind us as support, and the people we like the least, or have issues with in front of us as objects of healing and prayers and meditation. And moving up from there, people from all over the world, all different sort of from the animal realm, so to speak, just all beings, natural beings, from insects and birds and fish and so forth, from the natural ecosystem. Same way, spirit beings from the spirit world are here in the Bardo states and different planes, astral, ethereal, and so forth. Celestial beings, different demigods or asuras and gods. And countless beings in lower states of rebirth, hell beings and ghost beings. So we're all here together like a big family, and then we've got a dome, beautiful blue sky dome above us, and then the sky in front of us. Just so we can visualize Buddha Shakyamuni on a lion throne, beautiful golden body in lotus position. So he's got a golden energy body or light body, wearing three robes of a monk. Left hand has a begging bowl of medicinal nectar in it on its lap, and right hand has a subdued mudra touching the earth. And at his heart is his higher Sambhogakaya form, the divine couple Vajradhar and Vajradhatu Ishvari in sexual embrace with beautiful dark blue bodies, wearing crowns and so forth, and like jewelry and everything, silks, and they're very, very young and beautiful. And he has a bell in his left hand, a Vajra scepter in his right. She has a curved chopper knife, Drigu cleaver in her right hand, and a skull cup with medicinal nectar in her left. And then we can just feel around Buddha Shakyamuni or all the other holy beings or light beings and our teachers and protectors and angelic beings and so forth. So it's good. They always say it's kind of like a full harvest moon, Buddha Shakyamuni, and all the constellations or Milky Way of all the other Buddhist angels and light beings around him. And we can just take refuge here. So, hey, I and all sentient beings, until we achieve enlightenment, go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I and all sentient beings, until we achieve enlightenment, go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. I and all sentient beings, until we achieve enlightenment, go for refuge to Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Through the virtues I collect by giving other perfections, may I become a Buddha for the benefit of all. Through the virtues I collect by giving other perfections, may I become a Buddha for the benefit of all. Through the virtues I collect by giving other perfections, may I become a Buddha for the benefit of all. So here we can just generate bodhicitta as our intention. Whatever we are doing, especially today, meditating here together, may it be for the enlightenment of all sentient beings. May we achieve enlightenment to help all sentient beings reach enlightenment too. And the four measurables, may everyone be happy. May everyone be free from misery. May no one be separated from their happiness. And may everyone have equanimity, free from hatred and attachment. Visualizing the merit field, just like we did with Buddha Shakyamuni and all the Buddhas. And the space before me is a living Buddha Shakyamuni, surrounded by all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, like the full moon surrounded by stars. Wearing the seven limbs. With my body, speech, and mind, humbly I prostrate and make offerings both set out and imagine. I confess my wrong deeds from all time and rejoice in the virtues of all. Please stay until samsara ceases and turn the wheel of Dharma for us. I dedicate all virtues to great enlightenment. I'm offering the symbolic universe here from our hearts, a mandala offering. So we can visualize sort of the Vedic universe if you want, Mount Meru and the four continents and all the precious kind of royal possessions and so forth. You just feel just that you hold in your hands sort of a heaven of all beautiful things that we're offering to the Buddhas here. The ground sprinkled with perfume and spread with flowers. The great mountain, four lands, sun and moon, seen as the Buddha land and offered thus. May all beings enjoy such pure lands. I offer without any sense of loss the objects that give rise to my attachment, hatred, and confusion. My friends, enemies, and strangers, our bodies and enjoyments. Please accept these and bless me to release directly from the three poisons. I send forth this jewel mandala to you, precious gurus. Om Enam Guru Radha Kamoti. Now we'll do just a short LamRim prayer, prayer of the stages of the path from Tsongkhapa here, just for auspiciousness before we discuss and meditate on Tong Len. The path begins for strong reliance on my kind teacher, source of all good. Oh, bless me with this understanding to follow him with great devotion. This human life with all its freedoms, extremely rare with so much meaning. Oh, bless me with this understanding all day and night to seize its essence. My body, like a water bubble, decays and dies so very quickly. After death come results of karma, just like the shadow of a body. This firm knowledge and remembrance bless me to be extremely cautious, always avoiding harmful actions and gathering abundant virtue. Samsara's pleasures are deceptive, give no contentment, only torment. So please bless me to strive sincerely to gain the bliss of perfect freedom. Oh, bless me so that from this pure thought comes mindfulness and greatest caution to keep as my essential practice the doctrine's root regarding moksha. Just like myself, all my kind mothers are drowning in samsara's ocean. Also, that I soon release them, bless me to train in bodhicitta. But I cannot become a Buddha by this alone without three ethics, Well, so bless me with the strength to practice the Bodhisattva's ordination. By pacifying my distractions and analyzing perfect meanings, bless me to quickly gain the special insight, gain the union of special insight and quiescence. When I become a pure container through common paths, bless me to enter the essence practice of good fortune, the supreme vehicle, Vajrayana. The two attainments both attend my sacred vows and my commitments. Bless me to understand this clearly and keep them at the cost of my life. By constant practice in 4 sessions, the way explained by holy teachers, bless me to gain both the stages which are the essence of the Tantras. May those who guide me on the good path and my companions all have long lives. Bless me to pacify completely all obstacles, outer and inner. May I always find perfect teachers and take delight in holy Dharma, accomplish all grounds and pass swiftly and gain the state of Akshadharma. Now from the hearts of all holy beings, streams of light and nectar flow down, granting blessings and purifying. So you can just feel now that for having done these prayers. And invocations here and offerings to the merit field, to the Shekin and all holy beings, for receiving their blessing energy. So from the heart of the divine couple Vajradhara and Vajradhara, this field is from even their hearts here at the center of Buddha's heart. Beautiful golden light and nectar is coming down. And also from all the other Buddhas. So it's just like sunlight coming out through a window. We see the little sunbeam coming in. Sort of blessing us and all sentient beings. So just like you've got the sun coming out and just sort of dispelling darkness or shadow along a plain, sort of a prairie steppe or something like that, or sort of popping above the mountain and sort of lighting up the whole valley, you can just feel all this golden light and nectar as well. It's like a soft sort of cloud of nectar coming down like mist or dew. And purifying us, but most of all, sort of bringing up our energy level, our spiritual energy level. So our power, our wisdom, and compassion is increased. It's like we're all glowing here. Request for the checking the holy beings. Please grant us blessings of your body, speech, and mind. Just feel that just all the other holy beings are like just little stars. That's just like falling stars coming and dissolving into Buddha Shakyamuni in the sky. It's like the big harvest moon. And he starts to sort of melt into light, sort of glowing, just sort of losing its features, sort of melting inwards. Vajradhara and Vajradhara. So they're in the sky like a little blue diamond or a sapphire. And then they become just like a little ball of bluish light. And just like the falling star, they come to the crown of our head here. Same position we are, same direction. And because they're made out of light or energy, they can enter the crown of our head here, our crown chakra, and during the central channel in front of our spine, and slowly descend to our heart. And when they get to our heart, they just melt inwards into our root mind. And then dropping a sugar cube into hot water, it dissolves instantly. Just feel that all the wisdom, compassion, power of the Buddhas, all their enlightened qualities and functions and so forth become unified with ours. And everything dormant in us gets activated and sort of comes online here. Just sit with this. So just again, as I always say, joy and bliss. Bliss being a sense of totality and fullness. No more feeling of lack or restlessness or dissatisfaction. Just feeling like a deep, deep peace, inner peace and happiness and relaxation and openness with the bliss. And the joy being an energy or power for creativity. So it's not just like being stoned where you're kind of like on the beach, like this, but it's actually you can do something with this. You can benefit people. You can affirm things. You can love. You can have compassion. You can create. And we can just sit with that. It's a slow, heavy kind of meditation now here. Okay. Well, thank you for coming, everybody. Very sweet. Thank you. And we could try and say, we'll keep an eye on the time. Very hard when I start shooting my mouth off here, but we can try and got about 40 minutes left. Like to have the last 10 minutes or so just for Tong Len meditation. So it's not just talking about Tong Len, like talking about sports, talking about skiing, but never skiing. We can actually spend the last few minutes just sort of doing some practice together. But in the meantime, of course, this we can start just with questions and answers and discussion and sharing. So floor is wide open. Any questions, comments? What do you think?
Oh, I just realized I'm not muted. You can hear me, right?
You're perfect. Yeah, yeah.
I hope I wasn't making weird noises.
No, don't worry about that. That's okay. So I didn't hear anything, but I'm so deaf. But anyway, so
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I just want to say that I didn't get to watch both your things because I've just been really distracted.
No worries. Yeah.
I just watched the first one this morning and it was fantastic.
Okay.
I just love the way you bring so many things together for me. From years of listening to teachings, and I get confused quite easily. So It's so
Me
good.
too. So,
And also, I just wanted to say that my mom's not doing very well, so I might get a phone call. So if I disappear, that's what's happening. And I'll get as much of this as I can, which I probably will get the whole thing, but just in case.
no worries. And let's take your mom as an object of compassion at the end of when we're doing Tong Len, please.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. Maybe include my 2 sisters who are there with her,
Yeah,
having a difficult time.
that would be great. We could do that for sure.
Yeah. So anyways, I don't have questions exactly, but I just wanted to say that I really enjoyed that first class and can't wait to get back to the second one.
No worries. Thank you very much. And again, maybe there is not a lot of questions needed. Not just that I'm not saying that, oh, I've explained everything, but in a sense that people, you guys have practiced a lot over the years, and maybe you don't really need too much clarification or anything for this. It just might be
over and over again. I do need clarification, actually.
Yeah. Well, one thing, like I said, I just wanted to stress again, it might just be a little personal predilection of mine or something. It's just trying to situate Tong within sort of a wider context of Buddhism. Usually, like I say, it's sort of presented as kind of like a therapeutic technique, healing meditation technique, which it is, of course. And it's wonderful, but that's kind of how and of course, nowadays with the whole sort of capitalist wellness industry where it's all about feeling good or whatever, blissing out, it's usually just presented like, oh, you want to feel better during your day, do Tong Len or something. But, like I'd mentioned, the way it's in the Gelugpa tradition, especially, it's just situated in the great scope of LamRim as a way of practice of generating bodhicitta. So, the real healing being when you get to enlightenment, when you see emptiness with bodhicitta, with the mind of great compassion. So Tong Len is just an excellent way, maybe the more subtle or sort of sublime way of generating and training and generating bodhicitta. That was sort of the point that I wanted to make.
So yeah, and you did make it, and I heard it. Sorry, I'm going to interject because I forgot. That was one of the big things that was very wonderful for me to hear was the codependence, and not being codependent, but developing the bodhicitta. Because, like, I remember when I first came to the Gampa, Rob said to me, maybe you should do Tong Len, and I was like, no,
Yeah. Well, this
it kills me, because I didn't understand it. Yeah. When I took on the suffering, I just fell apart. And now I'm getting a much better idea of how you take that in and let it, crush the selfishness, but it's not hurting you. It's building you up. It's opening your heart, that opening heart business. I didn't get it. Yeah. I'm starting to get it. And you really summarized a lot of stuff. That was fantastic.
It is. I'm sure I haven't followed, but I'm sure if with Lama Ben's teachings and stuff, he always stresses the more tantric aspect in the sense that, of course, this is on YouTube and open whatever sutra, but mounting the visualization on your breath, like the prana, all that going together into your heart is a way of opening your heart chakra for higher spiritual realization. So when you look at that, Tong Len is such a powerful meditation, such a sublime one. There's actually, it was interesting. I should have, I've got it somewhere in the closet here on the other side of the room where I have all these, some of my old Dharma files and everything, but it was in the Tibetan government years ago used to do, it was very cute. Maybe they still do, I don't know, but they used to do a thing called Choyang, which was kind of like a yearbook. Every year they would get different lamas and cultural figures and writers and stuff to produce like I guess a Tibetan yearbook for the whole year. Like it'd be articles, stuff on Tibetan history, poetry, pictures, whatever. And of course, a lot of it was just Dharma teachings. So I think it was in one of these ones. I'm trying to remember where it's sourced. I think I probably have the photocopy in there. But there was this story. It was a life story about this yogi. It was an interview with him. And it was very, very inspiring. And so what he was sort of seen as this big sort of Haruka practitioner, but he was a layperson, regular guy, refugee, ended up in India, and ended up, of course, when they showed up, a lot of Tibetans as refugees, just like in the, well, I don't want to be too cynical here. It can be very cynical, but if you remember in the American Civil War, once the slaves were liberated in the Southern United States, a lot of times as the Union Army was moving southward, fighting the Confederate States of America, when they liberate plantations and liberate slaves there, you're like, you're free, and it's like, okay, great, but you're instantly drafted into the Union Army to fight, right? So, you know, it's just fine. It's like, I got my freedom. Well, now I have to fight in this war. But it was the same thing with a lot of Tibetans when they came over the border in '59. The Indian government said, well, now you're free. You know, escaped Chinese communist Prussian imperialism. You're in India, but we're drafting you into the Indian Army. So you're going to be fighting in northern India against Pakistan with the border war there, or against the Chinese government in 1962 when they invaded northern India. There was like a border dispute between India and China, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, this guy ended up in the army, was like a paratrooper or something like that. And then he got out of the army and PTSD and became just this big alcoholic. It's quite funny. He's just very, very honest about his life. And then, you know, he's getting older and it's like, well, look, I'm just been like a total loser. Maybe I should practice Dharma and be, and sort of justify my life and kind of redeem my life. And then he became this incredible yogi, was in retreat the whole time. And they actually would have been, I guess, sometime in the 1990s. People knew him as a really good yogi, and they took him to the States and scanned his brain, did that whole thing like Master Ricard did in those guys, those monks, when they went in and they tested their brain, they get them to meditate on compassion or something. But he was, you know, a master at Tumo or inner fire meditation, and they got him to do that. What was interesting is they said to do the measurement, I don't want to, you know, talk too much about Tantra here, but they said, we have to take a blood sample. And he said, you're not allowed to touch me, because if you take blood or anything, it's decreasing the prana. And so it's my meditation, you're going to test me, my meditation is going to suck because I've lost all this energy. And he said, well, look, we have to do this because that's how the sensors work, or whatever, the machines. And he's like, oh man. So they took a little blood sample and he said, oh, my energy just like totally crashed. And then they said, okay, now do your meditation. And I always remember this. So he's like trying to meditate and whatever. And then, you know, they're like, okay, finish. And he's like, man, that's like the worst meditation I've had in the last 5 years. And then for them, it was like off the charts, like all the sense, like, so for them, like all the Western scientists, they were so happy, like, oh my God, you're like this superhuman guy. We've never seen these kind of readings on someone's brain before. But he, this yogi, was like, oh man, that's like the worst meditation I've ever done. So it's funny. Anyway, where I'm going with this is that what he, in his autobiography, or like spiritual biography, Namtar, he talks about how he does Tong Len all the time. That's almost like his main practice. Like he's doing pujas and this and that, but Tong Len is his heart and joy. And he's in retreat and he has nothing except for some sheets. He wraps himself in sheets, has a little bit of food, and he's getting sick all the time because he's just in this cave in northern India. And every time he gets sick, he does Tong Len and he gets better. So it's really interesting. I'm not saying that we all have to, you know, never go to the doctor again, but it's very inspiring. And at the end of his life, he's got, at the end of the article, he's got different students and benefactors and people have so much faith in him. And he gets really sick, and I can't remember with what, and he ends up dying from it. Now, of course, he goes into clear light. He's a sort of spiritual person, so it doesn't matter. But at the end of his life, when he was getting sick, he would refuse all treatment, Western medicine or anything, and he would just do Tong Len. And I'm not saying we have to be like that, but it was really shocking, the efficacy of that practice as a healing practice. And you could see the way he talks about it, the only reason he's doing it is to care for other people. But the side benefit is that it was super healing for himself. It was really, really inspiring. He would just, it's like, that's all I need. That's the only meditation I need in my life, is that, like, he's doing all these higher tantric practices as well, but it's like his main go-to practice is Tong Len. I thought that was really beautiful and inspiring. And like I mentioned before, you can tie in Tong Len with being just a general way of doing meditation, like in tantric meditation where you're doing mantra work and everything like that. It is kind of like a form of Tong Len. So I'm just saying that Tong Len's kind of everything when you think about it. It's just this kind of almost like a universal meditation. It's not just something that you would do to get bodhicitta and then dump it, drop it. It's like, okay, been there, done that. You know, so I've graduated from grade 12. I don't need calculus anymore, or whatever. You know, this is something we just keep doing our whole lives as kind of yogis and yoginis. So, anything else? Yes, in. Yeah, you're muted, hon. Okay, can't hear you. Still
There
muted. There you go. Perfect.
It's so hard on the iPhone to find the
Now I know.
to get the controls.
Yeah.
This is kind of on the coattails of Maureen's question. And I'm sorry, I haven't watched your videos. So if you've already answered this, I'm sorry. Yeah. But back when Anila Ann was teaching Tong Len, and even as I'm like doing the breath where you take on everybody's suffering, like maybe it's my overactive imagination, but like I feel it physically, like it even like I get twinges of pain in my body. So how do you, like, is it just the practice of like, will that change and transform as I practice it? Or is there, do I just ignore it? Like what's the skill behind that?
This, yeah, of course, and it is hard. Like there's different, one thing I did want to comment is being a fan of, you know, sort of classical psychoanalysis, like, you know, our unconscious issues, our dark sides, our problems are always there. In other words, it, you know, like codependency and stuff. So part of doing these meditations is putting a light on all this stuff, like our different issues, to heal them. So this kind of stuff will activate and bring up our own issues. It always does. That's what Dharma does. That's part of the whole therapy of Dharma. So just to sort of tie that into what Maureen was saying, because like you say, like people get triggered, like Tong Len, you teach Tong Len, first thing is people say, oh, this is a form of codependency. I don't want to be a messiah. I'm not responsible for other people. I want to work on myself. How dare you think I should, you know, substitute my own problems for other people's problems? Like that gets triggered. We might feel that way. Another problem you get, especially if you do work like being a Reiki teacher like myself or whatever, people that are subtle or very strong empaths or energy workers, is it's like, I don't want to take on that energy, you know what I mean? Like, like what happens if I get sick? And it's real. Like if you do therapeutic qigong, I did that for years. I did Qi Nat Song, you know, when you're working with people's, you know, what they call, you know, Chinese medicine, evil qi or bad qi or negative energy from illness, let's say, or something. It's a real thing. I mean, it's unbelievable. And so, you know, you can get sick from other people's sickness. I mean, this is true, right? So two things with Tong Len with this. So that's a great question. It's a question you always get. And like I say, some people might not be as sensitive, so they don't feel, but other people really, really do. So there's different ways of looking. The most important thing, I think it might have even been in Geshe Michael's presentation, where he said, you don't get sick from the energy because technically the moment you take it in, you clear it. So that's really important to do. It's kind of like, you know, if someone's throwing sandbags at you, it's a huge sandbag. You just like literally pass it down the line. You don't like, I got the big sandbag, and you fall over, like taking on other people's suffering. It's the whole point of Tong Len. And this is why I've had it sometimes, I mean, not to criticize some other teachers I've been to randomly over the years, where they don't stress the idea that it's destroying your self-cherishing. That's like a central part of the meditation. So it's just like I take in the negative energy and then I heal it. And no, like the point is how the negative energy is being destroyed is by meeting your really negative energy itself around your self-cherishing and ego. And so the point is just like, you know, an acid and a base neutralizing themselves, your self-cherishing mind, which is the mind that gets sick, that reacts, that is scared of things, all those sort of negative ego states, that sort of centers kind of like a magnet with iron filings or a black hole, so it's sort of a center of gravity. Everything turns around the pole of that ego. So the point is all that negative energy is meeting all this negative energy and bang, it's gone. So, you know, having known you for whatever, over 20 years, I know you're a very, very sensitive and compassionate person. So I think sometimes we do want to feel suffering a little bit because we're empathetic and we care for people. Like, let's say there's a place where there's horrible things happening. You might take a moment and feel that suffering where it's like, oh, those poor people, or those poor animals, or, oh my God, the suffering, like the bodhisattva, you've got an open heart and you feel for other people. You know, it's, that's an honest in a good way, but knowing the difference between a real great compassion, a sensitivity and empathy, and a self-cherishing mentality, you know, oh my God, I feel horrible facing this suffering. What can I do? Live in a world like this kind of thing. Like, when it becomes something like that, it's more self-cherishing, then you will suffer. It's almost like that ego will suck in the suffering, and then something starts to happen where you might feel it. So the key is it happens right away. They say in the descriptions that it's almost like a lightning strike. You've got sheet lightning in the summertime. The negative energy comes in, clears, and then what do you have? You have luminous space at your heart. Everything is bright and open. Nothing sticks. There's no negative energy. There's just like you put on the light in the dark room and the darkness goes away with the light. That negativity is gone. And so that's the energy that you stay with. So the blackboard is clear. There's no energy. You're not getting poisoned or whatever. So this is how I do it, because I'm a sensitive person too, Yin. Is that okay? Is that?
Yeah, that helps a lot. Thank you.
It's an alchemy, just like a Jungian, you're alchemically changing shit into gold. Literally, you're changing the shit of samsara, which is everyone's self-cherishing, which is why we're all suffering, becoming this open, pure bodhicitta of loving kindness and light and wisdom. That's how it works. And that's kind of like the gold that's produced at the end of Tong. And that's why it's like on so many different levels, this is a profound meditation. You know, it is kind of creating out of the darkness comes light, almost like even in a Jungian sense there. So.
Sounds great.
Yeah, very good question. Excellent question. You read about it all the time, right? So, yeah. Marcia, did you want to ask something, or? I know you're muted there. I'm not too sure. Yeah.
I'm fine for the moment.
Okay.
I think it's very clear and it's lovely. And I'm just grateful to have a much deeper understanding of it now, and I can do it more effectively. And yeah, I just love it. It just makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, good. Like, also remember, this is a meditation on two bodhicittas. It's a meditation on compassion, but it's a meditation on emptiness. This can't work without an understanding of emptiness. Like, things alchemically change or can change because they're empty, right? That's what's interesting. And this is why you can see that the suffering doesn't have to stay. The suffering doesn't have to get stuck anywhere, or that negative energy. Everything is sort of like completely plastic and changeable because it's impermanent. There's no ontology here. We're just dealing with virtualities. We're just dealing with, products of the mind, creations of the mind. And so that's a really positive thing. So for Tong Len to work, it's based on emptiness, and it is a meditation emptiness. And that's why people think, like I always say, you get people, well, does this really work? Right? Of course it really works. Why? Because it works the same way everything else does. It's empty. And that's, so it's not like I've got something called suffering that never changes that's attached to me on an ego that never changes. It's almost like I've got a hamburger and I've got the melted cheese on top of it, right? And you kind of can't separate it and whatever. It's all these things are changeable. Like, I can purify suffering. I can completely change my own mind because everything's empty. Everything's flexible. Anything's possible. So that's why it's a very profound meditation. Like I say, it unifies both bodhicittas, compassion and emptiness, wisdom realizing emptiness together. And of course they go together. It's the same thing, just two sides of the same coin. So. Anything else? Because if not, we can just go right at, yes, Sue?
I was just thinking, in a way, when I look at it, I'm kind of thinking the secondary effect is if I actually am helpful to other people, and that the primary is that it's changing my own self. I don't know if that's a skewed attitude or.
Perfect. But think about it. I mean, that's perfect. That's exactly what happens. Like, you see, there's all these different levels. There's the level of your whole view or worldview, kind of like the backdrop understanding of reality that'll follow you everywhere. In other words, you know, your whole vision of the world will be a vision of cherishing others rather than cherishing yourself, in terms of, it's kind of like the frame of reference that you go through every day, right? Like, rather than, oh, me, poor me, it's all constricted, oh, like this, it's just like your heart is open. So that's like almost like the worldview or paradigm or philosophical outlook you have. And then because of that, your behavior is predicated on that, which means your day-to-day behavior flows from that. So you find yourself being more open, more helpful, more caring to everyone around you in public. Kind of interesting, right? Whereas kind of like this sort of ego, sort of primordial philosophy we have, which is me against the world, me victim of the world. My behavior flows through that, from that, where it's just like, hey, don't look at me when you do this, don't touch me, you know, this kind of thing. Like, what's flowing from that understanding. And that's, you know, they always say Buddhism is about changing your mind, changing your worldview of things, and then the behavior follows. And so you'll find, like, just like you said, so this is kind of why it's a practical philosophy, you know. And then you see it goes in a circle, because of you behaving that way, you're creating more positive karma from that outlook that only strengthens your view of emptiness, view of the world, and your pure view, which makes Tong Len easier and more spontaneous, which allows you to behave that way to create more karma. So it's in a loop. You're changing the negative feedback loop into the positive feedback loop, right? But I like that, like what Spinoza always said, the difference between joyful thoughts and sad thoughts is one's expansive and one's constrictive, which I really, really like. The more you think of yourself and get some, what he calls sad thoughts, it's in the Latin, but in the sense that negative thinking, kind of resentful, sad, down, you're sort of cutting yourself off and you go through the day like this. Whereas if joyful thoughts, we have an open heart, you're connected to the world. Like one of my Zen teachers in Vancouver, she would always say that it's like, you know, Zen, because you're really trying to be emptiness with your, you know, through that mindfulness of emptiness, like meditation emptiness, Zen. She said, okay, when we leave tonight, go out and you're open to the world. Like, notice the world, you're open. Like, anyone needs help, you're there. You see the beautiful sky, like you're a part of the world. It's really beautiful. And so Tong Len allows you to have that sort of more affirmative openness to the world. And then, of course, you create karma on that basis, which is good compared to the constrictive negative karma. You're always sort of creating negative self-cherishing karma. Right? So thank you. Excellent.
Thank
so you
you.
guys are pros. Like, everyone's comments, like everyone's like super awesome. They know this practice really well, which is good. So. Well, what do you say, unless there's one more question or anything, what do you say we do 10 minutes of Tong Len? Does that sound okay? And yeah, okay, good. So just got my little watch here. So let's take a moment. We can think of Maureen's family, or we all have our own people that we know that we need help, or even doing Tong Len for ourselves if we want to visualize ourselves in front of us, along with all other sentient beings, if we need healing right now or for a certain part of our life or time in our life. And of course, there's always ample material to meditate and do prayers with for this, for Tong Len, just the sufferings of samsara. So again, just mounting it on the breath. Feel all sentient beings in front of us, and again, all of their suffering gradually sort of morphing into a sort of dark black sooty cloud. And on the inhale that we take in, and of course, we're visualizing like a little kernel piece of corn or like a little black marble. And this is just our self-cherishing mind based on our self-grasping, that real small, very sad, angry, resentful, reactive part of ourselves, sort of that dualistic ego that doesn't exist, but that we've invested in for just like since beginningless time. That real sort of almost like a little nuclear battery, kind of like a radioactive core of a reactor of negativity. And as we breathe in that negativity, it meets our self-cherishing mind and cancels it out. So again, just the cancel, just a flash of light, and now at our heart, there's only openness, only light, only love, compassion, and goodness that we can breathe out and share with the world here. Okay, so just coming out of meditation now and Tong Len. And just take a moment just to sort of really let it sink in, just the emptiness of this practice and the interconnection between ourselves and all sentient beings. And so the non-self of that. Just feel just the open-heartedness we have now, just even the pure view, just all the light and goodness that we're embodying. Okay, so let's just dedicate this, and I'll just, so this marks the end of our Tong Len course. We'll be doing another course soon. I'm looking at sort of a short Mahamudra course and more the Vipassana part of it. So that will be live courses and recordings, and I'll let everybody know when that comes out. So let's just take a moment to dedicate this. So I'm just think that by the blessings of all holy beings, all light beings, all of our gurus and angels, the truth of karma, cause and their effects, by our pure spirit intention of bodhicitta, may all of our dharma wishes be fulfilled, all sending beings reach away. Thank you. See you next time.